All right, everybody, welcome back. We are here finally for some more Uni League for 2022. I'm Kadius, joined here on the casting desk today by The Wandering Bard. And we're about to hop into some Dota between Team UoW and USYD No Tinker. Bard, how are we feeling about tonight's games?
I'm feeling excited. Obviously, Dota's in a bit of a fresh state right now. We're still pretty early in the patch cycle. Lots of stuff as different teams are figuring things out, of course. And I've been really warming up to the games over the last couple of weeks. So excited to see what these teams make of things.
Yeah, certainly. And Team UoW obviously is just absolutely a team that has a reputation behind them. Not only just the last season, but both seasons last year, putting up incredible results. So I'm going to be very excited to see exactly what they can pull out. But this USYD No Tinker lineup, some unfamiliar names on here, bud, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, I mean, you look down. There's one or two that jump out at me, but it's a new. I haven't seen USYD No Tinker before. I'm not sure if they're what they're distinguishing themselves from. Maybe there's a USYD team that only picks Tinker. I'm excited to see this lineup though come together, and they've led off with a pretty hot pick in Death Prophet. Oh, okay. You're going to see some draft response immediately with the Lich. They're also got to notice the bans, right? If you were somehow like only just waking up to this patch, the fact that we're seeing techies banned first phase might surprise you, but that's just the wild world of Dota that we live in now, Kadius.
Yeah, it certainly is. Just trying to figure out the logos and stuff real quick.
Of course. Well, in the meantime, I may as well go through and quickly, before we get too deep into the excitement of Dota, thank the lovely sponsors that make this possible. Of course, we have three major sponsors this season. Predator, who are, providing us with the gaming PCs that we all need, or at least the gear to make sure that we can run Dota 2. It's our foundational sponsor. They're the gaming PC partner. They help us conquer new worlds of gaming, and Predator puts power and precision in your hands to elevate your gaming experience in every way with quality and performance. And then, of course, you need a monitor. So you go to AOC, our monitor display technology sponsor. They've been providing for more than 50 years an exceptional viewing experience to millions of loyal customers worldwide with, a current selection of stylish monitors for home, office, and gaming purposes. And then lastly, Rig, with what it takes to win. They are our headset sponsor for a couple of seasons now. Thanks, Rig, again, for their headsets just deliver superior audio for competitive gamers and streamers at all levels. Join the Rig team and enhance your gaming experience. So, Kadius, now that we have all of the hardware we need to play top-level Dota, we just need to get as good as the players currently in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, a lot of returning stream sponsors here, definitely, which is always exciting to see. But there we go. I finished. It's all sorted. We've got it done. First game
Wonderful.
for me for the season. So, a bit of last-minute tinkering, much like we're going to be seeing USYD No Tinker here potentially doing it themselves. But Death Prophet and Sand King locked in, as well as Lich and Mars, who I've seen quite a bit of Mars in the games that I've seen this year so far on the current patch, especially, paired in the offlane with that position 3 Mars, position 4 Snapfire, and then you go for the level 6 Arena of Blood into the Mortimer Kisses, and it is just a deadly, deadly combo.
Yeah, well, I think that says a lot about Mars, is that I could, off the top of my head, have thought 3 or 4 different 4-position heroes that you might have brought up there as combinations with Mars, each of which brings their own, different dynamic to the lane, all of which are equally strong. I think it's just the hero itself, right? I haven't gone back and looked at, what are the statistics of Mars lifetime since the hero was introduced. But it is a hero that just kind of does everything you want from a 3 position. It wins its lane in most cases. It holds its own even in lane matchups where it's not heavily favored. It has a lot of different ways in which it synergizes with supports. And then outside the lane, it brings a combination of, sort of solo presence on the map, farming and pushing out lanes, going for solo kills, and team fighting and initiation that you need. So, Mars seems like a fairly standard pick from me patch to patch, and something bad has to happen to take it off the table. But Sand King is a hero that's really risen up to meet it in terms of popularity of offlaners in this patch. And I honestly think that Tinker maybe even have the higher caliber firepower here between these two teams picking it up.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I mean, Death Prophet on the table, so a lot of synergy with potentially some other heroes here. I mean, obviously Tidehunter, if he does end up going the Aghanims route, the AoE Gush armor reduction can cause Exorcism to just absolutely melt through teams quite early into the game, actually. So it will be interesting to see what they go for. Obviously, there is a, Sand King already locked in, but we have seen a little bit of the Tidehunter support in the past couple of months, definitely around some of the OC SEA tournaments. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how they end up drafting for this. But obviously there's a couple of other characters in the game that do synergize very well with the Death Prophet, and just a very high demand position 2 at the moment as well. I've even seen a little bit of the Death Prophet support flex, position 4, really trying to optimize the build for the, the silence and the poke a little bit.
Yeah, actually, honestly, I've been seeing the most Death Prophet played in position 5. Now, granted, it's probably just the teams that you watch or the tournaments that you watch. I was casting in the LPL finals over the weekend, and the SEA teams there, they love to pick up the Death Prophet first pick in the draft, and mostly they end up just deploying it in the 5 position. It's pretty effective with the kind of carry heroes that get picked right now. There's not a lot of offlaners that it's explicitly bad against, so long as your safe lane carry isn't vulnerable to getting 100 to 0 bursted. And obviously once you just let the Death Prophet establish a bit of a presence in the lane with that ultra powerful Spirit Siphon early on, you can discourage that kind of aggression quite quickly, and then later on she just provides great utility, good push. Exorcism is still a strong spell basically at all stages of the game, especially when, like you said, you combine it with the minus armor. So I've come around a lot on that hero. You can even play it in the off lane. It's sort of, I think my co-caster Poglet said that it's the only hero that you can really see being flexed legitimately across all 5 roles, and that fully explains why you see it first picked so often now. But this is another hero that's been really making its way into the meta. I haven't seen as much Lich, but I've definitely seen plenty of Hoodwink, and now the team fighting and the ganking potential out of UoW is starting to really add up.
Yeah, this is a very telling first 3 heroes, though not a lot of flexibility in where they can go. Obviously, that is going to be the Lich 5, the Mars 3, and the Hoodwink 4. We have seen some shenanigans, like I know we had Giga Chatterlade last season, Reem Nizzle rocking the Mars in the position 2 mid lane, but Team UoW, I don't think they are maybe quite to the degree of craziness in their position 2 picks that we do see, Reem last season, quite pulling out of the hat. But nevertheless, UoW Esports, obviously 2-time number 1 team in the tournament, so I'm sure they're not afraid to maybe pick these very telling heroes, as long as they are confident in the ability to win those matchups, giving USYD No Tinker here the ability to kind of counterpick those lanes quite freely without fear of any repercussion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess we're describing the difference between a team that is known for picking heroes deliberately out of their presumed position, and a team like UoW who, even if, we might not see them as mid-Mars specialists, you'd trust that if for some reason the Mars' off-lane matchup got really untenable, or there was a better argument for a Mars mid, they could pivot, right? It's not an empty bluff to first face this hero and just go, oh, well, theoretically this can be in one of 2, 3, 4 positions. It's like you really, as the opposing drafter, have to consider all possibilities as on the table. But USYD, they're definitely going for a strong mix of lanes here. Chaos Knight getting picked up here. I'm assuming this is the carry. We have seen it in some other positions over the last couple of patches, but with some of the slight changes in the last big patch, there's been a lot of hype around safe lane 1 position Chaos Knight again, and having strong lanes does give you an excuse to pick up the Rubik as some great mid-game team fighting power, and obviously, just that X factor that Rubik brings, without, maybe softening up an already weak lane too much.
Yeah, I think the Rubik pick here is interesting. Obviously, the hero is not in the most demand at the moment, but can definitely do quite a bit of damage in team fights, being able to steal things like the Arena of Blood. Hoodwink really does not want to get trapped in Mars ult. Deleting trees makes Scurry less valuable, and then not only that, but it is a very squishy hero that usually relies on being elusive and sitting around the edge of fights, and then the moment you lock it into an arena, especially with something like the Sand King and the Chaos Knight locked in here, can be very, very scary indeed. And that goes as well for Clinks. Before the game gets late enough for, Clinks to just become ridiculously tanky, we could see that being a bit scary for the Skeleton Archer as well. But final bans here, it does look like USYD No Tinker are targeting that position 2 role, so that does make sense, obviously. Position 2 Clink's not nearly as common as maybe it once was back in the day. It's definitely that position 1 kind of safe lane carry. So they are just taking out things that look good with this draft right now. Obviously, I do agree. The Ember Spirit also looks quite good here, trying to remove those tempo mid laners that can kind of create a lot of space, make a lot of noise, and combo with, Mars with that very strong level 6 and the Hoodwink to maybe pick up a couple of picks in the early game. And it does seem like the opposing team here trying to get rid of the Arc Warden, which is surprising. That is a bit of a specialist hero.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether that's just something that because it's a hero that some people just never want to play against. Like, that's really annoying. Don't pick it, even if they don't know that there is sort of an Arc player on the other team, or it's like an Arc Warden heavy patch. I was just interested to see, the breakdown of sort of what positions maybe each team thinks the other one is going for with their last pick. Because, Medusa, TA, Ember, and now, of course, Void Spirit, plus our look at the UoW lineup tells us that they're probably banning the mid lane. But those three previous heroes, the Medusa, the TA, and the Ember, have all had, quite a lot of success in the safe lane position over this patch. So they could still have been, threatening a mid lane pick. Whereas UoW, they're looking at Tinker's lineup and seeing a fair bit of flexibility from their first three heroes. Rubik obviously is a support almost always. So, they could still have feasibly been, considering banning out a safe laner. But they're going to pick out some possible mid lane dominators. Do you think that maybe indicates a less standard mid laner? I also am interested in, have you seen much of Clinkz? Because I haven't. So I'm not certain what to expect from this hero. It was changed slightly, but UoW seemed confident picking it up here.
Yeah, I haven't seen Clinkz since Clinkz was everywhere a few patches ago. Went from definitely being one of the most popular heroes in the game to sort of floating a little bit below the radar, but I mean, it still does have that very big late game difficult to deal with potential, where it will just kind of get to a point where it is super, super tanky, does tons of damage, and has absolutely ridiculous range. But, at the same time, there is a lot of ability to get onto this Clinkz and lock him down. Probably does not want to get this Chaos Knight smacking him once the Chaos Knight does get a bit of items. But final picks here. Ooh, Invoker! This is definitely one of my more favorite heroes to watch in the game, just in general, and that is probably going to be the position 4 Invoker, I would imagine, or maybe the position. It would be a position 2 Invoker, and then probably the position 5 DP, like you were saying, and then the position 4 Rubik in the offlane with the Sand King. That's my prediction, at least. They may go for a 4 Invoker, a 5 Rubik, and put the Death Prophet mid. That is the other option, I suppose. We'll just have to wait and see. But final pick here, they really wanted to get rid of those tempo mid laners. Obviously, they only banned 2 out of the 3 spirits, so if they wanted to go Storm for whatever reason, they could definitely do that. I personally don't know how the Storm into Invoker or Death Prophet matchup kind of goes, though, so I'm not sure how safe that would be. But I don't know. Do you have any knowledge in that one, Bud?
Both of them sound not great in the early game, but I don't think they have to be so worried about ganks, so it could be viable here. I mean, the DP silence, and they have a lot of instant stun, like Burrow Strike and Lift can actually catch you out into the DP silence. I don't know if it's a great game, but it's probably just a player confidence thing. Some players are very comfortable picking their most reliable heroes even into sort of strong counters like that. I don't mind the idea of picking it up, though. I was honestly a little bit distracted by the idea that they might still be flexing, just because I saw this sort of thing play out in a draft on the weekend where a team ended up running their mid Mars into what turned out to be a mid Sand King. But we're not going to see any of that. We're going to see a very current flavor of I'll say cheese hero.
Yeah,
Huskar.
I completely forgot that this hero existed for a second, but
he exists.
It is absolutely genius into this comp. Look, you have the Invoker, you have the Rubik, you have Sand King, you have Death Prophet. So much magic damage being pumped out of this Tinker lineup. If you have a Huskar that's just sitting there with like 1,000,000 magic resist, it's going to be very, very hard to kill him with this lineup. The only thing you really have going for you here is Exorcism and Chaos Knight, and that's very kind of like, it's not the biggest amount of burst damage. It's sort of like whittling you down with, the Chaos Knight illusions and or phantasms, I should say. And the Death Prophet Exorcism is obviously, that damage over time as well. So Huskar can just kind of heal through it. He's going to be a bit of a problem this game. Definitely is going to be the player that I have my eye on this UoW lineup.
Yeah, it also just kind of puts a gun to the head of USYD No Tinker, and it's like, we are going to beat you in 20 minutes. So, if not have actually destroyed the throne by then, that's when the game's going to be decided. So if you had plans about maybe playing this a little cool, stretching this to the late game, we know that Chaos Knight becomes very powerful. There will be a point where Chaos Knight represents like literally the most overwhelming physical burst in the game, at least that doesn't rely on crit chance. So, at some point that Huskar is just going to completely vanish under Phantasm-aided Reality Rift. But, that's going to take a while. And in the meantime, you're right. They don't really have the tools for answering this hero. I don't believe we're going to see an Exort Invoker to provide a Sunstrike. It's been very much a Quas-Wex hero of late. So they definitely have their backs up against the wall here in terms of being able to hold off what is one of the strongest Huskar sort of builds or timings that we've seen in recent patches.
Yeah, definitely. And you talk about that massive Chaos Knight burst in the late game. All it really takes is maybe just buying one little kind of physical defensive item, a little bit of armor to stop that from happening. It is, again, fairly telegraphed, so you could even go for something as crazy as picking up a Blade Mail and just trying to pop it in reaction to the burst. But, Gubala, definitely a very, very proficient position 1 here. So if there is anybody that I would trust to being able to represent the physical damage threat to carry this game and deal with the Huskar, it would certainly, it would certainly be Gubala if I was to put it in anyone's hands to absolutely just melt through this Tinker lineup. It would certainly, it would be him.
He's your man. Yeah, I mean, look, you make a great point. We have some real Uni-League All-Stars, all-timers here in this season opener. So, great way to kick things off. I'm excited to see. And getting to actually cast this Huskar instead of just sort of... Previously, when I've commented on it, it's just been because it's banned. So I'm excited to see this play out in an actual game. I'm excited to see the build, of course. We've got the starting items, the triple gauntlets people have been going for, some changes to Quelling Blade, making it slightly less exciting for ranged heroes, and obviously we may see some number of braces this game because those basic stat items have been buffed. So you already see the impact. Actually, Sand King's screwing up a null talisman. So Dota is a game that is always renewing itself, and we'll have to watch these lanes closely. The DP Chaos Knight lane up top, I haven't seen this actual lane before, but just on paper it looks like it may really be a match for Mars Hoodwink.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is going to be kind of scary, the amount of ability that Death Prophet is going to be able to interrupt their ability to shut down this Chaos Knight. Chaos Knight is sort of one of those heroes that is just absolutely not a hero for the longest time, but then suddenly just becomes absolutely broken once you get your items. Which is why for a long time, it was not favored in pro play. It was not favored in high MMR matches, just because it had such an abusable early game that if there was a team that knew what they were doing, the CK simply could not come online and could not get to that point where they were a very relevant threat. And, but here they're opting to pull it out, and they're opting to play it, and it's definitely something that I can respect. But I do think that CK, over the years has gotten a few quality of life patches, a little bit of love that has just made his early to mid game that little bit better, that little bit less crazy RNG reliant, and I do feel like the hero can definitely function a lot better.
Yeah, it's really added up. Like if you go way back to that sort of old CK that our sort of long-term perception of the hero is based on, there has been so much given to this guy, like the lifesteal in lane, the lower cooldown on the ultimate to make him slightly less exploitable on a macro level, as well as letting him use it as a farming tool more often. Even just the way that items and stats have changed over the years tends to end up favoring him. So I'm glad, honestly, because it is a really unique kind of carry.
They've been 10-10 in the bot lane.
Yep. Well, that's Sand King for you.
Yeah, that is first blood. I mean, I guess he was just chilling in the sandstorm, felt no need to go anywhere. He's like, I'm fine. And suddenly his health bar, he looked at his health bar and it just was not there. It had disappeared.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how well... I mean, I'm not surprised that Sand King is doing well in the lane, right? It's a very strong hero, but, there seems to have not really been a great plan for dealing with it, despite how early it was picked in the draft. I mean, the Clinks is trying to get some farm in here, but it's getting delayed a bit. You're actually behind the Sand King on farm. And, getting killed in the Sandstorm that aggressively positioned in the lane when the supporters of Rubik, it's a bit of damage with the Fade Bolt, but that to me indicates some early problems.
Yeah, so Bibinten actually does have a sentry ward in his inventory here that he could be placing in the lane right now. Obviously, you don't want to place it in the lane when the enemy heroes are there, so they know exactly where it is. But we did just see them walk up and try and pull the wave into the safe lane camp. And while they were doing that, they weren't down here where the wave is. So he could have just put a ward somewhere and probably been fine. But instead, he tried to go up there and contest, which is a little bit strange because you are 2 level 2 heroes against 2 level 3 heroes. You're probably not going to win that one. So I don't know.
In the mid lane.
Yeah,
that's a pretty big blow, right? Your snowballing hero just drops dead. It's 1v1. Getting sort of just out-bullied by the Invoker in the early laning phase, right? You sort of grade it all in fights, but getting whittled down over time adds up enough to kill the Huskar early on.
I do love the Huskar build going on right now, though. Just all the strength. He's got 3 hands.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe he's wearing like 2 gloves on one hand, just on his fingers or something. We don't know what size they are. But he is using that to be able to rush an armlet as soon as possible. You can see he's just got the brown boots and triple gauntlets. And he's going to try, presumably not to build anything else, may have to make a concession to building treads. But that's another lane that's going in favor of the Dire right now. We're really seeing the flex come out. Is even top lane is decisively going in their favor. They actually kill the Mars. You said that, the CK is not a hero early on, but one thing that the CK does have that not every carry does, especially in the current meta, is a stun. So Death Prophet, far from being just a way to discourage commitment onto your carry with that Spirit Siphon, can actually use it aggressively and get some strong guaranteed damage out of it when the CK can hold them in place.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about CK, right? It's all about that Chaos Strike where CK isn't really a hero early game, but there's a 33% chance that he is. And when that chance happens, he certainly hits very hard. And, I mean, that's always good to see. CK grabbing another kill is always going to be nice. I'm sure Loved appreciates that one. But definitely am going to be seeing how this bot lane kind of recovers because they are in an awful state right now. Bibinten still has not placed either of his wards that he started the game with. Just kind of hanging on to them. And again, like, you're not really able to contest this, especially not 1v2 while your carry's farming under tower. Like, you would think this is kind of the time to maybe go and establish a little bit of vision.
Yep.
But, instead he's just kind of walking around and just taking pokes. I don't know, Bibinten right now, your first game that I've seen him piloting this position 5, and not crazy impressed with how the warding is going, but
it's early going, right? Like, I mean, you could definitely make a case that you can put down the orb somewhere. Although right now he wanders away to put that ward, and immediately they collapse on his carrier, right? So that any space he gets is at the expense of Sunyi on this Clinks, and the Clinks, of course, just wants to farm under tower. Like, speaking of people who aren't a hero, right now definitely doesn't feel like he can stand really against Balance on the Sand King or the Rubik in the lane. That combination is just putting out too much damage. So without his presence, the Lich really can't get where he needs to put these wards down. He is able to de-ward a Sentry of his own, but now look, he may just immediately pay for a Burrow Strike. There's not really much mana. The Rubik could probably mango for a spell, but won't need to, and that's another kill. It's now 5-0, a 2,000 gold lead, 6 minutes in. There was another kill on the Hoodwink up top, so their safe lane is doing just as well as the opposing safe lane isn't. And while the Invoker has finally fallen behind the Huskar in CS, it's otherwise just a rout right now on the map to no Tinker.
Yeah, I did just realize I was not showing the last hits on screen. Do apologize. There you go, folks. I forgot you have to do that. Taking a few months off being a cameraman, alright? You forget to click the W key sometimes.
It's a lot to sort of put your mind back into all at once, and in the meanwhile, while you're trying to catch up, there is just no pause in the pace of play here for USYD no Tinker. So Ramen Noodles grabs that haste rune, runs top on the Invoker, gets another kill, and things are starting to add up very quickly. I don't know if there's any sort of lasting economic damage being done in terms of stacks made or stacks stolen or towers being taken just yet, but the gold they've been able to get just by out creeping is very impressive.
Yeah, so I mean, so far, this is definitely up in the air. I mean, obviously, this UoW lineup...
he can't... No, okay. He stops casting the Epicenter, doesn't actually waste the cooldown, because he realizes he won't need it. He can just kill the enemy carry.
Good on him. He's on the tower, though. Gets feared up by Bibinten. There is the telekinesis. Frost to armor, though, is going to keep him nice and tanky. Balance has to watch out, but the Epicenter is there, and keeping that cooldown, paying off in the long run. Balance picking up a second kill in this bottom side safe lane, and I gotta say, most farmed person in the game. Balance, we're going to be a bit of a problem here.
Yeah, this is really, really grim, right? Like I mentioned that I'd seen Sand King run away with the game by getting a favorable mid matchup against a Mars. Whenever this hero gets too much farm early on, it can fully take over a game. Like it's sort of like a Batrider type hero, where in some games you're picking it purely for the crowd control and the stun, but other times you can just see these virtuoso tank performances. Although that was pretty far from virtuosic there, just gets caught out. Bibb10, you mentioned holding the wards forever, but that time was the perfect time to deploy one and catches the Sand King playing slightly cocky. That's a really valuable counter kill to get. As you said, the most valuable hero on the map at that point.
Yeah, I mean, well, it was definitely a ward that wasn't held for very long, as he does drop the fear onto Asian Total Frenzy, but only a little bit of poke there to follow up. He does get the spell steal, though. It's going to be interesting to see what he uses the Sinister Gaze. That's the one.
Sinister Gaze.
Level 1 Sinister Gaze. Cheeky little taunt, bit of mana steal. But yeah, Bibb10, he died, went back to Fountain, grabbed himself a Sentry Ward, and then immediately TP back and got it the kill onto Balance. But look at the damage these two are able to put out right now. Sunyi was full health only a moment ago, and now already extremely low. They don't really have much in the way of sustain. They only have one salve and a few tangos on Bibb10, so...
Top lane... Okay, they barely miss a kill on the Mars. The Invoker Tornado just runs out of juice a little bit before it could catch him on the flight, but they'll take his support as a consolation prize. And so Ramen Noodle's been really, really active early on out of this mid lane. I mean, you expect it from, you know, a Cosmic Invoker. Once he's got the Urn up, he wants to utilize that, wants to get charges, and it maybe is more fun for him than laning into this Huskar. But with his advantage, you could really be potentially bullying that mid lane, but instead making sure that the Chaos Knight has the comfiest possible time.
Yeah, I mean, UoW, again, this is a team that has a lot of precedent behind them. They won both the seasons in 2021, but, you know, this is University League. People graduate, people move. Yeah. So, yeah, this is not the same UoW. This is pretty much a completely different lineup for the most part, and whether or not they're going to be able to live up to the reputation that their university has in this tournament will remain to see, but at the moment, it does not look like it, as the position 2 is going to get caught between 3 heroes, I should say, and a courier.
Yeah, if I didn't know better, I would say that UoW were the ones for the 5,000 gold lead at 10 minutes. But, you know, this is just what happens. You have a reputation, but that means there's also a target on your back. You're playing for one of the teams that's been historically, I suppose we'd say, one of the strongest university Dota programs in Australia. As we see, instead, Klink's getting vaporized by the second epicenter of the game, 10 minutes in, getting massive usage out of this hero, and starting to really lap the field in terms of personal net worth. That was his Blink reveal on Balance the Sand King. So just going nuts right now and maybe able to pick up another kill on Bibb10, who wasn't there to see his carry die, but will join him in the grave as he just gets casually sniped by an Invoker rotation. It's a rout all over the map right now. Mars dies in his own arena at top to Exorcism. That's crazy stuff to say. This Chaos Knight is actually farming right now, but they decided to go on the level 7 Death Prophet, and unfortunately, without enough burst damage, she's just going to Spirit Siphon back up, and 15-1 Kadius. Oh my god.
Yeah, this is just an absolute wash at this point, and again, the only advantage that this team really had over them was this Huskar and this Mars and the Hoodwink kind of roaming around together and just getting pick after pick after pick, but they're not able to do that, and therefore this comp is kind of going to fall apart as they do get massively outscaled. They're just going to group mid, look for another pick here onto position 1. However, Ice Moon Ed going to try and go in, looks to get the Fire Spears onto Asian Turtle Frenzy, does find enough damage to finish him off, so Ramen Noodle's going to be next on the agenda, pops the Ghost Walk though to get out there to safety. Now, this is going to be some signs of life shown by UoW Esports.
Yeah, that's a, you know, every kill is a big kill when you're behind like this, especially in the early game, and it's a massive kill to get on your Huskar. He doesn't even have his armlet yet. That's just the raw power of the hero. So now that that's almost shouted him all the rest of the way there, we'll hopefully be able to see more of those as a team movements, because as you said, there's no worse loss in Dota than when you pick a lineup that's sort of designed to gank or at least initiate like this, and then you completely lose control of the tempo of the game. It's just your heroes getting jumped time after time. If they can wrest control of the plays back and sort of make some of their own, maybe get a Blink Dagger up on this Mars, or just, yeah, have the Huskar barrel in no fear like that and use his strength, that would be their path back into the game. But it is going to be a tough ask when they're behind on all 3 cores this heavily.
Yeah, we'll certainly have to see how they make their way back into this one, but in the meantime, Mars just farming up. We'll have a look at, you know, total net worth, and Sand King still looking pretty comfortably at the top with Chaos Knight and Invoker to follow, so certainly is going to be an uphill battle for the UoW lineup here.
Gubala working on his own armlet right now on the CK. You imagine he'd be joining fights pretty happily after he has that. Recognizes his team are dominating the early game and maybe doesn't need to, you know, delay some sort of peak item, go for anything more expensive. The fight's actually joined in mid.
Certainly going to be going in. Arena of Blood is dropped, but look at the Sand King damage right now, just putting out the AOE, able to turn this one around into, you said, no Tinker's favor.
The Stolen Arena, as you predicted, doesn't seem to do that much, but it does ultimately hold Clinks in place long enough to kill him, although Asian Turtle Frenzy will pay for that insult with his life. Next to Sandwich Man on the Hoodwink.
Yeah, nice play by Sandwich Man there, actually. Able to turn that one around with a well-placed tree and acorn shot. Gonna do some serious damage there and finish off the enemy opposing position 4. Bring that Rubik down, and, you know, it is still... The gold lead just keeps climbing, though, I'm afraid. You know, you look at that fight, and it was mostly even, despite an extra kill being gotten by No Tinker. But, you know, at the end of the day... There's still a 9k gold lead, and it was 7 only a little while ago.
Yeah, I mean, Gabala's been playing PvE, right? So the whole time your team was occupied fighting and mostly dying there for UoW, one of the most proficient carries in Uni League was just farming it up. And that accounts for a lot of the gold difference, along with the mid tower. So, you know, they're just kind of running down the checklist of Dota objectives currently. Mid tower, tier 1 taken, top tower, tier 1 taken. You know, they even got the, you know, the bottom lane tier 1, although that's obviously not as important strategically. They've started to get good wards up. You know, there have been pretty good Radiant wards, watching the sort of curtain across the river, making sure that they can hold some space even in the face of scary enemy heroes. But now they're starting to even lose that as the Dire kind of move into their area, plant sentries in the common spots, get some D-wards or at least some obs of their own, and then the threat is just very ever-present that you'll be jumped and destroyed by Sand King or CK.
Yeah, certainly. I don't think this is the actual Gabala, because he doesn't go to USYD.
It
does say
Gabala,
it does say Gabala's #1 fanboy.
Yes, yeah. We should both read.
It's a Gubala imposter, not actually Gubala.
I was about to say.
This is loved, but nevertheless, you know, definitely living up to Gubala's shoes as one of the best positioned ones in the tournament so far. Just been farming, has absolutely great net worth. Obviously, we talked about how yoked this Sand King is so far, just super stacked in the money department. And, you know, Love, despite having a bit of a quieter game, is basically keeping up in net worth, so super impressive there. But meanwhile, in the mid lane, looking to get a little bit of a jump down onto this Huskar, and it looks like they are just going to be able to do it as he's not allowed to move. In comes Athos, though, with the Arena of Blood, gets the Spirit of Mars, Invoker getting very, very low, as well as Appa, but the Spirit Siphon keeping him alive for just a little bit while longer. Here comes Balance, and oh my goodness, Love over the wall with the Chaos Rift is going to finish off that kill. Finally making his grand entrance into the team fights with this very farmed up CK, and definitely looking very scary.
Yeah, that one's gotta hurt. Like, obviously, it's a big deal to your team that Love shows up on the CK with already Echo Saber, Armlet, even has the Possessed Mask, neutral admin drop for him. You know, 15 minutes, he's just unstoppable, right? There's a lot of things that are going wrong for you, but the fact that those heroes all survive that nice Chain Frost, and on just enough HP to not care about it, you didn't get really anything for your efforts. That's what really rips the soul out of a team, and maybe that's going to be the last best moment of resistance we see here out of UoW. I hope not. I hope that they can, you know, rally their team again right now and put together some sort of fight. The Dire are really spread out across the map, but it seems as though any sort of timing they may have hoped for is quickly slipping away from them.
Yeah, I do want to say that I think Death Prophet is one of those heroes where you do need some kind of ability to deal with Spirit Siphon. Usually that's in the form of just building a Spirit Vessel on someone, and obviously UoW has multiple people that it is quite good on here. You know, you've got the Hoodwink, you've got the Mars, Huskar can even grab one, but not having any kind of anti-heal, you saw Spirit Siphon just absolutely out-heal through like 2 people's damage simultaneously, so it's kind of ridiculous, especially when it is max level like this in fights, and not putting any respect towards it is just going to allow Appa to just go absolutely ridiculous and just soak so much damage in these fights.
Clinks, whether, you know, awaredly or not, sort of slinking away from a whole crowd of smoked heroes out for his skeleton blood right there. But they find none, and instead they'll settle for a tier 2 tower that cannot run away. I think they do, on paper, have some sort of counters to the DP. Like, for one, it's probably a support, so you don't want to get carried away counterpicking it or overemphasizing its role in the game, but certainly it's played an outsized one because the laning phase is so influential, and Apple was able to be so influential on the laning phase. But, you know, unfortunately... Oh my god, yeah, that was some CK stuff right there.
So he got stunned, and then when the stun ended, he was dead.
Yeah, that seems like normal Dota to me, right? You know, it's rocket tag with stuns.
I was gonna say
this, Huskar.
I was gonna say maybe Clink should have opted for a bit of an earlier BKB, but he literally just has a falchion blade and a maelstrom, so.
Oh yeah,
he's starving a little bit.
That kind of just makes the point that I was going for, right? Like, whatever they intended their draft to be able to do almost doesn't matter at this point because they've fallen so far behind so quickly, right? So they probably imagined that they would have, like, I don't know if they were ever going like a Desolator or something. They imagined they'd have more burst up on the Clinks. They imagined that they'd be able to get their Mars blinking to spear the DP maybe away and break her siphons. Just that's, you know, you can have ways to counter a hero that aren't as one-to-one as you've got a lot of healings who will build the anti-healing item. The problem is right now they can't build any items fast enough to matter.
Yes, certainly. And I mean, Balance grabbing up that Aghanim shard. Gonna be farming very quickly with the passive epicenter procs. But they are pretty much pretty much just walking around the place and taking towers right now. I mean, there's not much to say. There's very little to cast here. They're quite literally just going wherever they want. They're just that far ahead right now. I'm not really... UoW needs some absolutely ridiculous, like, Na'Vi the play levels of teamfight turnaround to, like, win this one and come back.
I mean, it seems like they're playing for that classic, I think it's a Kuroki line to say that you can't lose without going high ground, which is a slightly cryptic way of saying that your best chance to turn around a game like this is when your enemy tries to take your tier 3s, but they're going to be doing so with, like, close to 1,000 net worth lead per minute of the game that's passed, and also an Aegis. And they may not even need to do it into your team because they're fighting right now just randomly outside their own triangle.
Yeah, Huskar is just going to kind of go down for free, and I mean... yep, they just are wandering through the place getting kills. I mean, Balance is godlike right now. 1 kill off, going beyond godlike. And he's pretty much just walking around with Epicenter and Sandstorm doing absurd damage while Love sort of one-shots people. It's very incredible. There's going to be another one-shot. Yep, there it is.
He was farming for a lot of these early kills, so he's got to make up for lost time. I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about sending a message. And, I mean, this is going to be the strength of their comp as well. Now that they are ahead and they're able to push, they have the Death Prophet support, which, while being a support, also still just has Exorcism as an ability, which is one of the best siege spells in all of Dota 2. And they're just going to melt through these towers.
Yeah, and I mean, it's arguably an even better siege spell on a support DP because, okay, it's not going to be as high level or as powerful at killing buildings as it would be on a core. When DP's like your mid laner, then that Exorcism is presumably a huge part of your team fight, and you often feel pressured to consider leaving it up, but they just pop it and...
Engaging with the Arena of Blood. This is the high ground push you were talking about. Aegis has actually popped off CK, but here he goes, turning things around with the Phantasms. And Appa looking to go forward, pops the Yules onto Sandwich Man, and that's going to be 1, 2, 3. Loved picking up a double kill. Unstoppable as they look towards this mid lane Rax. And definitely a valiant effort. They were able to grab the position 4 and an Aegis, but not enough to knock this USYD lineup away from their absolutely determined beeline straight to the throne right now. They are just going all the way. They're not even going to go for the other Raxes. May as well just go for the Ancient. I mean, you're that far ahead. Why not?
Go for the enemy Clinks.
Pick up a couple extra Clinks kills. Make your season KDA look a little bit shinier. Why not?
Yeah. Appa choosing to pad the stats there with the nice kill secure Crypt Swarm. Got to get those KDA pumps where you can as a pos 5 player. And this is definitely the game to be doing it in. Everyone's going to be going home looking good after a game like this. 8-1 and 9, for instance, on that DP, which is pretty ridiculous. But yeah, I think that little high ground skirmish right there pretty much sums up the game in a microcosm. There were flashes of good plays from UoW. They knew what they had to try and do at least, and they tried to do it with what they had available. It was just kind of like too little, too late, kind of a little bit hurried, a little bit uncoordinated because of how much pressure is being already applied immediately and constantly by this USYD No Tinker lineup. A super impressive statement game from them.
Yeah, it definitely is wild. But, you know, USYD certainly a very dominant game one. I mean, these players are not crazy ranked or anything. You know, they're not super well-known high elo names, but their ability to play as a unit of 5 is certainly very solid in this showing of game 1. And sometimes, you know, in a game like Dota 2, maybe you might be weaker individuals in certain matches, but at the end of the day, that's not what matters. It's the stronger 5 that kind of is able to play better together that ultimately wins.
And in this case, I think they have actually made a really strong case for themselves as the stronger individual players too. Like, one thing that's been commented a lot about this patch so far is how important the laning phase is in terms of dictating the course of the rest of the game, the early game in general. Has a lot of weight attached. You can do this, right, where we're seeing a team take multiple lanes of Brax very easily for 25 minutes. And picking a lot of pushing heroes that are also lane dominators. So there's really, you put some heavy demands on what the enemy is able to do in the game, or they just kind of concede defeat. And what laning focused metas often do is favor mechanically strong players, which we're seeing now play out, and the advantage they've been able to have leading into these fights as, they just take UoW apart.
That does not feel great to get hit by one auto attack from Loved and a position 5 Death Prophet Crypt Swarm, and that is all it takes to kill you from full HP. I gotta say, they've done an absolutely amazing job of shutting down this Huskar, though. You would think with all this magical damage coming out from this team that Huskar would be very difficult to bring down, but honestly, Sir Ramen Noodles, just a player diff, innit? Like, he just absolutely gets the solo kill early, which, you know, admittedly, early game is probably Invoker's best bet to kill Huskar when he's able to pump out lots of right-click damage in the laning phase and not have to worry about his spells so much. But even in the team fights, dropping those really well-placed Tornado into EMP combos to melt through the Huskar's mana pool and enable them to just kind of kill him without fear of, you know, him turning around, popping the Q, and then spamming out those flame spears, doing a lot of damage. Definitely very, very well played by Sir Ramen Noodles, proving himself as one of the more to-watch mid laners in this tournament.
Yeah, this whole team just looks $1 million right now. I mean, obviously you're going to when you win by this much, as we see Upper deciding to try like attacking the Hoodwink decoy. Maybe it's real this time. Get tied to a tree for your troubles, but you know, there's nothing they're really concerned about right now. Balance is dropping the beat with the Sand King pump fake. The rest of them are dropping the beats on the enemy's remaining tier 3 tower. No GG call as of yet. I respect the fighting spirit, but whether you choose to bow out on your own terms or not, this game should be coming to a close very soon. And this is a best of 2 series, I believe. So USYD, after this performance, you know, it is only one game. You can never read too much into it, but as much as possible, they have established their credentials already as a potential finals contender this season.
Yeah, and in comes Aphis. This is going to be do or die. They're trying to melt down Sir Ramen Noodles. He pops the Ghost Walk to go invisible. Lich with the Chain Frost, trying to do as much damage as he can, but Balance beyond godlike with a double kill in the backline. He's looking to make it a triple. Yes, indeed! Massive epicenter! And the Sand King, we talked about him throughout the game, and he is a problem. And that is going to be GG's being called by the UoW lineup, and map 1 going over to the side of USYD, no Tinker.
Yeah, I mean, they came, they saw, they didn't pick Tinker, they conquered. That's what we're kind of getting at, right? They looked like they had arguably the better draft. Certainly they had a draft that looked like it was well planned out and every player knew their role and their hero's role. And then they went into game, they outlaned their opponents across all 3 lanes, heavily out CS'd them, solo killed them. When you win all 3 lanes, it's very hard to lose a game of Dota, particularly with that lineup against a lineup that was looking to take an early lead itself. So, hard to read too much more into that game, other than that, you know, USYD came into this already warmed up, but maybe UoW can pick a less polarized draft next time, something that lets them play a more balanced style of Dota instead of relying on being able to win the lanes after that one just backfired.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, UoW looking a little bit shaky in this game 1, but again, this is a new team. Maybe they haven't had as much practice together as this USYD no Tinker lineup, but I mean, we will just have to wait and see. I do think Sir Ramen Noodles not being given this Invoker is going to be quite core, as that is not the most favorable matchup for Invoker at all. So to get solo killed in it is certainly saying something about just, Sir Ramen Noodle's proficiency on this hero. He is level 30 on Invoker. So certainly a lot of games practiced, and I would imagine that one to be a fairly confident ban going into game 2, which we will see you for soon, right after this very short break, as we go back and see if UoW can conquer this 5-41 kill defeat that they've just taken in Game 1, right here on the Australian Esports League, Uni League, for Season 1, 2022. Welcome back, as we're about to hop into Game 2 of the UoW Esports, going up against USYD No Tinker for the Australian Esports League, Uni League, for Season 1 of 2022. We've just come off of a fairly massive defeat for UoW, who are the university that won both seasons last year, so they do have a bit of a namesake behind them, but this team, this new team that they've got for this year, off to a bit of a shaky start. As always, I'm Kadius, joined here on the casting desk by Bard. And what do you think UoW has to shake up here in order to win this second game?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we touched on it a little bit at the end of the last game. Maybe they can pick just strong, stable lanes that aren't predicating themselves on, winning hard and snowballing into an early game Huskar timing or anything like that. But given how sort of roundly they were defeated, maybe it's best to just let some expectations go, pick some comfort heroes if they weren't doing that already, ban some of the stuff that beat them last time, and just try to play their way into this season. As you pointed out, they're just at the start of their arc with this roster, with some big shoes to fill, so you can't judge them too harshly for game one as they sort of try and redefine their style. They maybe just want to get their mind off that first loss, because it's a tough way to start the season. If we want to take our minds off it for a minute, we'll quickly get back to those sponsors who are, of course, making Semester 1 of AEL Uni League for 2022 possible. Those being Predator, our gaming PC sponsor, conquer new worlds with Predator Gaming today. AOC for the best viewing experience, providing all of our monitor equipment as our monitor sponsor. And Rig, what it takes to win, our headset sponsors, delivering superior audio for competitive gamers and streamers of all levels. So, if you believe in our sponsors and you believe in yourself, then anything is possible. But I do think that USYD, based on what we saw in Game 1, have a slight advantage in Game 2.
Yeah, USYD here looking absolutely amazing in terms of their players, but surprisingly, no Invoker ban here for UoW Esports, and they do decide for the 5 pick, Jakiro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interesting pick, right? Not one of the completely standard supports we've seen people leading off with. The Lich wasn't either, to be fair. So maybe it's just one of those cases where, and this is, I honestly think it's a selling point of Uni League, right? You see a lot more variety between individual teams. You see the character of players very quickly in these teams. They picked Biben 1010's hero first last time. It just sort of give you a nice stable pos 5 to start the draft. It doesn't really matter if the enemy knows we have it. You know that you're getting your comfortable hero, and we can move on with the rest of our draft without worrying about it. So, if you have a player who has, maybe just a couple of heroes they really want to play every game, may as well pick them first, Don't bluff yourself out of it.
Yeah, I do love the immediate no hesitation Legion Commander lock in to the Jakiro. Ice Path is pretty much the only CC Jakiro has, and is very, very reliant on Ice Path in those team fights to make sure Macropire can stay on people for as long as possible. Legion Commander, press the attack, suddenly Ice Path on the carry just doesn't matter. They can just walk out of your Macropire, makes the hero a lot less viable. And as well as that, obviously, if Legion Commander is able to get onto Jakiro and hit the duel button, Jakiro just dies. So definitely, I do like that one there quite a bit. And the Gyrocopter getting locked in here, which is definitely making IO a strong ban here in the second phase for UoW Esports. Whether or not they'll recognize that or not will be remain to see. But yeah, Gyrocopter getting paired with an IO5 here makes the most sense. So to pick it here when you are going to be about to going through a ban phase is a little bit strange. You're not going to be getting that pick more than likely, but I mean, there's always the chance the UoW Esports just don't respect the IO Gyro, which would be interesting.
I think they're making it slightly more complicated than it might be otherwise, right? With that Legion pick, because if you're picking IO supporting the Gyrocopter, where are you in your mind as you said playing the Legion? Because right now, to me, what they're showing is, well, we've got Legion as our Gyro support, right? You can press the attack to immediately get off a ton of flak attacks right at the start of a fight, really supercharge that ability, front load all the AoE damage, and of course you can remove stuns, as you pointed out, very effective against the Jakiro. If you pick an IO, then obviously you have two very powerful partners for the Gyrocopter. He loves that, but either then you're playing Legion as an offlaner, which has seemingly fallen a little bit out of favor of late, or you are having to spread a lot of sort of the crowd controlling duties or other functions your supports might normally have across your cores, because you've sort of picked two really dedicated babysitting enabling supports.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Dazzle getting locked in here is going to be really nice. Obviously, Dazzle just does, to a degree, counter Legion Commander. Shallow Grave on any dual target is just sucks if you're Legion, right? Because you can wait until the Shallow Grave wears off, but then the duel does as well, which means you're not going to be getting those hard-earned duel victories. So in that regard, one of the hardest counters to Legion in the game, absolutely. As well as that, it gives people a ton of armor, which Legion Commander doesn't like to deal with, as very right-click dominant for their damage. But that is assuming it's a Legion Commander core. Again, it could be a Legion Commander in the support role, potentially, just focusing very much so on that press the attack to make the Jakiro Ice Path completely irrelevant, maybe in the position 4 role. Pair this with a position 5 IO. I'm assuming it's going to be last ban, but with 5 seconds left, I mean, we're going to have to just wait and see.
And
is it IO?
I don't know. I don't think it's IO. I think they got walloped so hard in game 1, you don't really need to... I don't know if your opponent picking IO on you, like, obviously IO is normally, I don't know if it's called a cheese strat, but it's definitely a strategy that can kind of blow you out of the water on draft alone. I don't know if based on game 1 that USYD are operating on that level. I think they're just trying to avoid, heroes that make the lead worsen on you very quickly, or heroes that beat them in game 1, like the Invoker and the DP. Like, if your opponent picks an IO, fine. At least you know that you maybe are going to have a slightly better laning phase, or you know that that's a known quantity to you. That's not necessarily worse than them just picking quote unquote normal heroes. But yeah, the Dazzle Jakiro pairing is really interesting to me. I wonder whether this might be a core Dazzle. I have no basis for that other than I haven't seen Dazzle pick this patch, and the changes that were made to him were pretty dramatic. Which, usually when a hero is new or hero gets freshly reworked, a lot of the time people like to try it out in the core role. One, because that gives you the quickest idea of what the hero's real limits are. Maybe it is suddenly viable as a mid laner, but also because, you potentially just get to try it out quicker. You get to have a good Dazzle game almost guaranteed because you're soaking up farm levels from the mid lane. But, I've also seen a lot of support Gyrocopter depending on the teams that pick at this patch. So we really can't assume much about these positions other than that Jakiro and Hoodwink are probably supports.
10 seconds remaining.
Yeah, I just don't know why that's not IO. There's no reason that wouldn't be IO. I guess it's just their 5 doesn't play IO. That's literally the only reason I can think of, but...
they don't need the IO.
I mean, you don't need it, but like Gyrocopter is like twice as good with IO on his team.
IO role this game.
Yeah, that is true. Press the attack gives the attack speed as well, I suppose. But at the same time, she can't really just like follow the Gyro around and just be clicking it while he farms stacks as easily, because the Legion Commander will just go out of mana. But Earthshaker getting locked in here, and that is a lot of disruption on this UoW lineup. They've got the Jakiro path, they've got OD, and they now have the Shaker. So this is going to be quite scary. This does open up the opportunity to maybe go for the Morphling position 1 if they want to do so. They did take it away where the Morphling Aghanims, or sorry, just the Morphling Aghanims no longer allows you to copy allies, but you can still copy enemies. So you can counterpick the Morphling into the Earthshaker and grab it in team fights and still be an absolute nuisance. It does mean that Gyro will probably get flexed off to a different role. We'll see if they decide to opt to go for that. I don't know if that's an option, but
I mean, it's definitely viable as a support, especially if you are taking an aggressive stance in the lane and in the game more generally. Which, boy, did they definitely do that in game 1. So I could fully see them if they feel like they've practiced or they want to try at playing a Gyro support and really trying to bully the lanes. Because even a hero like Jakiro, right, or Dazzle, they have quite strong level 1 spells in Poison Touch and Dual Breath, but they just can't stand up to the damage output of like full rocket barrages or even the homing missile, frankly. So like Gyrocopter has like a great auto attack. He can really assist you in these sorts of side lane support duels, especially if your laner is sort of a stronger fighting core early on than theirs, so they can't really all in you. And that's kind of what I'm seeing come together here. You could even have the Gyro supporting the Legion in the off lane. I don't expect that to happen. I think this is picked as like the safe lane duo right off the bat. I think USYD are kind of relaxed in how much they're showing of their draft, and they wouldn't be necessarily trying to super deceive with their opening picks. But it is on the table, and I mean, there's some great save, as you pointed out. Like, you've got all sorts of tools to rescue heroes who are trapped in the duel, or by a homing missile strike, or even by the Dream Coil. It's just a matter of, again, can you win these lanes, right? And I like that they're at least going for strong laning heroes like OD, and like Jakiro, who can potentially give them a shot at playing more of a game than they did in game 1.
Yeah, this is definitely a very brave Puck pick. Obviously, Puck not having the best matchup into the OD. And as well as that, between Jakiro, OD, and Earthshaker, there's so much long-range setup onto this Puck to get ganks off and kill the Puck. Any OD, Earthshaker stun on top of the Puck, and then you just Ice Path where the CC is, and then as soon as the Puck comes out of the stun, or the OD, stun is just going to get hit by Ice Path, get stunned again. Super easy to kill this Puck this game, and I'm kind of wondering why they decided to go for this pick. Obviously, the silence is very strong. If Puck is able to stay alive and actually does get the silence off, that is quite huge into this UoW lineup. So maybe that's just what they're thinking, trying to get that disruption ability for all the spellcasters that they have on their lineup. But
I mean, it's a classic combo with the Gyro, right? Like, you want an initiator, and you definitely want to hold the team fight in place so you can unleash your cooldown, your flak attack. So Dream Coil's like the spell for that, besides maybe Ravage, and Tide's not as flexible a laner. But you're right, it's going to be tough for Puck this game, right? Maybe they're just backing Sir Ramen Noodles to just dominate regardless of matchup like he did in game 1. But there's a lot of ranged heroes here. So, they're not necessarily just going to be clumped up for you to hit an easy coil. And like you said, especially if they get a blink going on OD or Earthshaker, their potential to chain stuns on you out of nowhere is pretty high. So again, maybe we need that. We're really trusting our Legion commander to bail you out. You fall out of the OD banishment into an Ice Path or a Fissure, and then you have to get that stun purged right away to keep your mid alive.
Yeah, definitely. It does seem like UoW believe that USYD are going to be still picking their POS 1 and that this isn't a Gyro position 1, just based on the fact that they banned out Drow, they banned out the PA. So maybe they think this Gyro is actually a POS 2 or a support, like you were saying, but they're going to go for the Wraith King. I do really like that one there. They don't have any mana burns locked in. The only mana burn that they could really itemize is like Diffusal on Gyro, maybe.
I mean, you could try and do something on the puck even with all his current auto attack gimmicks, but I don't know if your way of beating Wraith King is mana burn, right? I don't even know if that happens in pubs as much anymore these days. It's just Ice Frog's made the hero have some better quality of life against that stuff. But I think what they can do is exploit the Wraith King's timing and his lack of mobility, right? He's really relying on the CC from his team to let him hit these targets. And not only do they already have at least one hero that can bail heroes out of CC, but it's not as though they have the most lockdown. Ice Path is a fairly unreliable stun. Fissure is quite a long cooldown. Banishment is not ideal either because obviously, you can't hit them. It's mostly a setup. So I could see this Wraith King be kited quite easily when you look at the heroes that he's arrayed against. I also wonder, it kind of looks like UoW are completely all in their draft on stopping, duel, right? They're heroes they've got ways to save a single hero from being locked down and killed. Not only do they have Shallow Grave to keep you alive and all this defensive CC, they have Wraith King, the hero that cannot be locked down and killed unless you do it 2 lives in a row. But Balance is going to be taking up the Legion Commander. I thought, well, what if you should just pivot this LC to a supporting role? But instead, they go for the core Night Stalker. So they are just going to try and beat them on tempo. It will be the 5-pos Gyrocopter. Just not support, it won't be supporting the LC, but it will be in that 5 position where I've seen it. It's the same philosophy as the Death Prophet support. It just outputs too much damage. You can't go on the carry, and all they need is that little bit of breathing room in the early game to get loved online. And this could be another stomp.
Yeah, I mean, Position 1 Night Stalker is definitely very interesting. It's a classic here in the Uni League. Last year, we saw the Night Stalker sort of just getting picked up before it even became meta during the TI period. But it's going to be interesting. I'm definitely excited to see how it turns out. It is sort of similar in how it would sort of play with the Wraith King, with the caveat being Wraith King is obviously much stronger once it comes online and gets the items going, but the Night Stalker having a little bit of that faster tempo that it's allowed to play. When that first nighttime hits at 5 minutes, it's immediately going to be an absolute nuisance for the entire enemy team to have to deal with, but an immediate smoke coming out here in this game 1.
Yep. I mean, the Night Stalker pick fits so well with how we saw USYD No Tinker take over game 1, right? Because you remember, it was all about taking the initiative, being the ones always to make the play, make the initiation, and you just get this momentum where you're always just killing a hero as the fight starts. Your opponent can never get their footing, can never make an effective turn because they can't keep enough heroes alive when they're able to start fighting back. That's going to be doubly on the table this game with that Night Stalker depriving you of vision, because once your vision is reduced at night, how are you going to stop yourselves from getting caught out? Look at the heroes that they have to play around. You've got Bushwhack coming in over the trees, one of the sneakiest abilities to land an opening stun with. Puck can just drop in on you. Legion can just jump and duel someone. I'm sure Balance will have another potentially fast Blink Dagger timing. Even the homing missile, right? Spells can just be cast from outside your vision, and there's very little that you can do other than huddle up as a group. And as strong as this UoW lineup might be in terms of potential team fighting, they could very easily get outmaneuvered on the map. So it's going to take some real grit and coordination from them, and hopefully a good start to the lanes. They aren't already on the back foot when that becomes a problem.
Bit of a fight already, though. Appa starting off with the Missile Barrage, getting a decent amount of poke onto Athos, but you're totally right. I do really like this dire side composition that we have going on here. Just a lot of synergy between the heroes, especially in team fights. You've got the combo between Dream Coil and Cooldown, as well as, homing missile and the ability to set up for a really, really strong Sharpshooter Hoodwink ultimate in the back line. But bit of a 2v2 happening here in the Radiant side jungle, but Ben 10 does have to watch out. He's been bullied in the last game quite significantly. Did he start 2 wards again? He started 1 ward. I guess
Yeah,
he only
I mean-
started the Sentry last game because of the Sand King, which does make sense, but also did wait until level 3 to place it, so the Sand King was already kind of quite ahead of the position
Yeah.
1 in terms of XP and last hits, able to drag the wave on level 2. Certainly is something you kind of do have to drop quite early and be intelligent with to bully the Sand King before he gets some levels going and becomes annoying to deal with. But look at the poke onto Sun Yi already. Half HP on this Wraith
Yeah.
King.
I mean, I was about to say before, that little exchange that this could at least be a gentler lane. And in fact, they actually swapped their supports. I don't know if this was the plan all along, but it looks like Sandwich Man has come down here because Sun Yi really got bullied quite hard in the early game. There just wasn't much opportunity for the Lich and Clinks to combine forces in the laning phase. And so they were just sort of divided and useless. Bringing the Jakiro down means that this lane is really fearsome, and since the Legion Commander, at least early on, I don't know, maybe we're going to see a max overwhelming odds build or something, but I just don't expect it to bully the Wraith King as hard. Hoodwink itself is typically not a lane-dominating support, right? Like, stronger supports like Ogre or DP in that 5th position, even the Gyrocopter can really exploit it, but we're not seeing USYD pick heroes that output that kind of damage, and so we're just seeing Asian Turtle Frenzy plonk away with the Blightstone, and instead the Gyrocopter support is being run by Upper, who I don't know if you saw the pre-game stat screen, has definitely been putting in some pub practice on the support. Gyro had a win there with some real support-like KDA, so I'd be a little bit worried if your opponent knows what they're doing on this hero. It's very strong right now.
Ooh, Bibenten actually getting some early D wards out. Better warding than we saw in game 1. You love to see it.
Very nice.
Adapt, improve, overcome. But certainly, I'm going to be interested to see this bot lane, how things work out, because it's certainly not in the dire side's favor. Obviously, you're putting the Legion Commander core when, if you first pick Legion Commander like this and the enemy team puts great effort into their draft to shutting down duel and making sure that Legion Commander is going to have a really hard time getting those duel victories. Hang on, Sandwich Man might be getting caught out here. Oh, one more auto attack will do the trick from Asian Turtle Frenzy, but he's not going to be able to find it in time. Sandwich Man living on a prayer, just barely. But as I was saying, if the enemy team is going to put this much effort into shutting down duel and just making those duel victories very challenging for the team to get, at that point, why wouldn't you just put the Legion Commander support? Because you have it first picked. You know that Press the Attack is going to be great into their comp due to the 5-pick Jakiro. So, Press the Attack is always going to have value no matter what other heroes they pick, and you're not going to be able to get much value out of duel. So the fact that they did still just commit to this Legion as a POS 3 is very interesting to me. I feel like it's going to have a rough time coming very online. And as well as that, they did predict that the Jakiro was going to be the position 4 this game. They were expecting to run into the position 5 Dazzle in the bot side, like they did last game. And that's why the Hoodwink is down here, I would imagine. Hoodwink into Jakiro is a much more rough matchup. You do have the very low health pool of the Hoodwink, which is just going to get absolutely bullied. As Jakiro, that's kind of what the hero does, right? Walks up, dual breath, liquid fire, and suddenly you're half HP. And when you're a very low health pool hero like the Hoodwink, that is just a bit of a problem.
Yeah, it's just Jakiro's, it's hard to miss Jakiro's spells. I don't expect that's going to happen to Sandwich Man, as we see, Balance at least gets a courier, not quite the bloodbath in the laning phase we saw in game 1, but, still a small edge here and there. But yeah, as you pointed out, very hard for Asian Turtle Frenzy to take favorable trades, although it's a little bit easier. Jakiro's just, holding a skill point for that whole exchange. And when you're already spending all your mana and casting all your spells, it kind of feels like you should just commit and get some value out of that level, because these trades are close right now. They're hanging in there in these lanes much more so than game 1, and in fact in mid, the OD is currently somewhat predictably bullying the puck, but at least we are seeing, matchups that they should win on paper come out well for USYD this time. And in fact, at top lane, they're starting to get a little bit aggressive on Loved.
Yeah, Sunny in the bot side as well, very, very low. One more auto attack will do the trick, but it looks like he might be able to get out. No, there it is. Balance Reinforce Blood with the movement speed coming out. Absolutely wonderfully done there, certainly. But it's going to be an interesting game. I mean, again, this was kind of the position 3, position 4 bot lane that ended up causing a lot of problems for this UoW lineup. And it looks like they might do it again.
I'm a little bit surprised that the Wraith King got harassed down. Unfortunately, even with 2 points in Vampiric Spirit, he just can't get enough help to survive. There's not that. Oh, actually, Bibin10, speaking of not surviving, there's. I'm not shocked that we're seeing this Gyro support get some kills, because that hero is, again, just outputting a ton of damage even in that 5-position role. And Bibin10, has slipped away a couple of times, but the Rocket Barrage will get you eventually if you keep testing your luck. But yeah, again, even in a relatively low burst offlaner like Legion just kind of has to spam overwhelming odds, cooldown on cooldown, was able to wear down Sun Yi relatively early in the lane there, and now they're trying to get the trade back the other way. Just like they were able to get a cheap kill in the Sand King early in game 1, it'd be a pretty big deal, but so far balance is hanging tight, and it does feel like some of these plays, and especially that Legion Commander pick that you were kind of pondering, are maybe the result of confidence from USYD. Like, I don't know if they would have picked this offlane Legion into this draft against every team, but after they smashed game 1 so hard, maybe they're in a mindset of, no, we want to practice this lane, or we want to practice this hero to see how the comp works, and even if it's slightly counterpicked, we're just not going to worry too much, because we trust our players to overcome.
Yeah, this is really bad right now for this Radiant offlane though, certainly, because the lane is in a really bad spot where if they walk up, Appa's just going to walk up and hit Homing Missile, and you're going to have a Night Stalker during that first nighttime where it's very scary, but in comes Puck. Dream Coil connects onto 2. They're doing their best to CC Loved off, but he is just too tanky right now with all the strength that he has purchased. In comes Appa. Homing Missile is going to connect onto Athvis, but here is Ice Moon with the TP, gonna banish up
Let's check a
the
soul
position
ring
5,
super
and oh my goodness, so Ramen Noodles are gonna save Appa, but not for long as the OD ulti coming through, and Ben 10 gonna get wrapped up by Loves. Coming in for round 2. Whether or not Ice Moon Ed is going to be able to grab much more here remains to be seen. Yes, indeed, a double kill onto Sir Ramen Noodles, taking down his opposing position 2. That's lovely to see. And while this is happening, I do notice you have your eyes on Asian Turtle Frenzy grabbing that solo XP in mid like a good pos 4 should.
Yeah, I mean, these are the little things, right? You sort of mentioned how well coordinated they were as 5, and I guess this comes down to equal parts coordination or just individual game awareness, but being able to always optimize your usage of the map is huge. However, at top lane, much more exciting things are happening. They're still trying to bring down this OD. It's Ice Moon Ed again, who's the big core for his team in the early game, but this time he's having a much better start than he did on the Huskar.
Yeah, so Ramen Noodles coming back with the TP. No Dream Coil available. Looks like that Shallow Grave is going to keep Ice Moon Ed alive for just a little bit while longer. Might actually kill himself here with the banish. Will the Illusory Orb take him down? No, going to go wide just a little tiny bit. In goes Puck though with a second Dream Coil. It's back up once again. Loved getting quite low, but evading the tower shots quite nicely. Second Illusory Orb is going to finish off the kill onto Ben 10. TP's out. Athvis might give up the chase. Yes, he is going to go back towards this off lane, where it is ultimately going to be USYD coming up big in what looked like a
There's a duel at bottom lane. It's absolutely furious, and Balance just loses out. He tried his luck. He tried to 2v1 the rare, fair, just straight up 2 heroes versus 1 duel. He did hit level 6 and just kind of postured super aggressively, but even getting the duel off before the Sand King before the Wraith King got his Wraithfire Blast wasn't enough. Loses that one and feeds a lot of gold back the other way for the second game in a row.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like your one shot and one opportunity, right? Sunye level 5 is going to be level 6 soon. Once he gets the reincarnation, it's just going to be super difficult to get those dual victories on him. So, makes a lot of sense, and he maybe wanted to go aggressive here, but this is going to be a very scaling Wraith King. Picking up the Midas, and after the Midas, not exactly sure what the item is going to be. I would imagine something like the Radiance, just looking to hyperscale. That's kind of what you do when you pick up items like that, Hand of Midas, but I don't know. I mean, whether or not Sun Yi can kind of be a late game savior this game, which, if it does go late enough, he will be, but whether or not it'll get there in time remains to be seen.
Yeah, look, I don't hate it, right? Your enemy are clearly trying to hunt you around the map and limit your farm space. They're going to be hemming you in at some point in the mid-game, so having a Midas is like, it doesn't just accelerate your farm, it's kind of like a very reliable chunk of farm. No matter how little map space you're boxed into, you can always use that Midas in basically every situation unless you're in your fountain. So that guarantees that you'll be continuing to scale to some degree. It's obviously pretty fine on Wraith King since he's a survivable hero by default with Reincarnate. And I do see this as like a good kind of game plan to build towards. Okay, we see the Echo Slam actually deployed just straight up at top to try and kill Upper's Gyrocopter. They can't get the Poison Touch going though.
Yeah, he's going to walk out of that one.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I like the gumption, right? You saw a play and went for it. Everything right now points to USYD just playing for the late game and just sort of playing to get what they can right now and maximize their chances of just kind of like holding high ground, holding out, keeping their cause alive, discouraging aggression.
At this, getting dropped very low, but oh my goodness, Ice Moon Ed! What was that damage? Just absolutely deleting the position 5. The Ninth Ascent is
coming in visibly with a Dream Coil, though. This could be the end of Ice Moon Ed.
Oh, it looks like the Shallow Grave is going to keep him alive for a little bit while longer. Great Dream Core, though, is going to connect onto 2. This is a very scary spot to be if you're Earthshaker. Staying alive, barely, but no, loved. Over the side is going to hit him with the Darkness. Finish him off with that nuke. And that is going to be, once again, USYD somehow coming up ahead.
Yeah, they're playing these fights a lot better now. I mean, I think they've realized how aggressively their opponent is going to, you know, take the fight to them after game 1. And they've realized they need to be able to stand their ground and fight. They've identified that Ice Moon Ed is playing these really strong heroes, and so they're picking supports and enable him. That was a great bit of game sense to throw the Grave out and get the teleport off, and after the Dream Coil came out. So they clearly, you know, I don't know if they saw the puck pick up the rune on wards, but they're just kind of aware that he was coming to the fight. And now they're going to turn it around. And can Sir Ramen Noodles make a similar escape? Yeah, slips out with the phase shift. Ethereal Jaunt.
Yeah, Athfish actually messed up his CC chain there, which is a little bit unfortunate, I do believe. But it's okay. He mistimed the second stun from the W after landing the Fisher, but nevertheless, that's going to be a lot of damage onto the puck. Force her out in the mid lane.
Yep. The only sad thing that the area is right, like we're seeing them fight a lot better on the side of USYD right now, so the game looks temporarily even, at least on kills or in how the fights are playing out. But you do have to worry for the long term, and it is kind of where you start to see other dimensions of the game come out where maybe USYD No Tinker are ahead, right? The warding for them has been very strong all game. They're starting to get some really great deep vision that's going to make it hard to farm, right? They're going to bring their ganking comp online very soon, even more so than it already is. And on farm, all of their cores are just sort of effortlessly out CSing while all this fighting is going on. They're just finding more on the map. You know, they're getting those level 6s up on their supports, like we commented on before with Asian Turtle Frenzy in the mid. And yeah, they just look like a team that really knows what they're about right now.
Yeah, they certainly are. And this is
they're about
probably a
killing
dead
Jakiro and getting some duel damage.
Will they kill him in time? Yes, they will. Balance picking up the first duel victory of the game. Again, at 12 minutes in, this is what I'm talking about with this Legion, right? Like, this is such a hard comp to get duel victories, but the strength of Homing Missile on full display right now is Biben10 tries to run in absolute horror, but in the end, it is not enough. Double kill for Balance. They do commit the Dream Coil for it.
The thing about the duel is that even if you don't get the duel victories, it's still a sort of a lengthy stun. Sort of about the best that can happen is that you force...
Yeah.
The best case scenario is that you defensively imprisonment. That does fairly well negate the duel. But beyond that, you're wasting the reincarnation, you're forcing the grave, and there's likely to be a hero alive at low health. Like, when the Legion is also the most farmed hero in the game, it really does sort of put a different complexion on, oh, Legion hasn't got, you know, more than one duel victory at 13 minutes. Balance is just going to be a tanky threat regardless, and he's going to lock down an important hero for the whole fight. I'm sure they think that's enough.
Yeah, Athos getting bullied here really hurts. It is 13 minutes into the game. Not having your Blink Dagger at this stage as Shaker really does hurt. It's sort of the weakness of Shaker. The hero needs items to kind of be very scary in fights, be able to get those Blink Echoes.
Oh, they're collapsing on him now. They know he's getting close.
Yeah, they definitely do want to stop him from getting this last little 200 gold push to finish
Hero
things
tanking
off.
the gank instead, but Athos walks up.
Yeah, he's going to get tagged here by the duel. It's the Homing Missile. Second duel of the game for Balance, and Jakiro as well, getting pretty much solo killed by Sir Ramen Noodles off into the sideline.
They're going to make a fight out of it, but the OD is now really isolated. Biben10's trying to finish Sir
Oh
Ramen
my
Noodles,
goodness, Sir Ramen Noodles turning that around on 1 HP. The Shallow Grave is there. Maybe going to look to turn things around. No, Biben10 is just going to die to the illusory orb, and Sir Ramen Noodles just absolutely dominating the opposing position. 5 Ice Moon, though. With the
There's a bit of a
Imprisonment
mismatch,
kill.
a level 6 Dazzle on a level 10 Puck, but yeah, that was some nice stuff. And even comes back in with the last of his mana to make the play and get the triple kill dominating. Now, Sandwich Man doesn't have the Macropier, so he probably won't have the damage to kill the Puck, but I don't think Ramen Noodles has any way to get out of this. He's gonna deny himself! Oh, maximum swag. Tip that man.
That is very sad to see, but Sandwich Man, he definitely does have the damage there. Dual Breath by itself, just one of the better nukes that supports have. You know, Jakiro, very good, especially for those lower MMR support players that are looking to pick a hero. Jakiro, that rhymes, look at that. It can't really go wrong. You just kind of click Dual Breath on people and do a lot of damage and be useful. And then you kind of Macropire and Nice Path in fights and deny areas. I don't know, he's just very, very easy to play. You don't have to really think about your spells all that much. And you know, on full
You
display
have to
there.
think about your positioning, and like this is a team that really tests that. Like we kind of saw there, that team just USYD weren't certain how they wanted to fight or whether they wanted to fight, or, you know, at least not all at the same time around that bottom tower. So they kind of just trickled in one by one. They got their supports caught in bad positions. We've seen that they can take these fights really well if their heroes are positioned correctly. But I think, you know, when your Jakiro tanks that gank, the first best thing to do is just bail completely out of the lane and get what farm you can top. But the second best thing to do is, like, teleport at least to your tier 2s and 3s and move into the fight together to properly counter-initiate. If they do this right now, what they're going to do is get picked off across the map, which Biben10 is modeling for us right now, getting owned in his own triangle. Granted, doing the God's work of fixing up his team's vision, but unfortunately will pay with his life. And counterkill on the Hoodwink, maybe.
Yeah, it's a very dead Hoodwink. I mean, we did mention Hoodwink being one of those heroes that is quite prone to just getting blown up in CC, and very CC heavy comp here on the USYD, on the UoW lineup. So makes sense to see the Hoodwink just kind of dying a few times here, but.
How do you like Loved's build? This is actually a surprisingly rare thing when I think about it. We've got Mask of Madness, and I mean, discount that there's an Echo Saber, but Mask of Madness and Armlet on the same hero. Like Echo Saber, this is maximum early game kind of overvalue for money at their price point strength hero items.
I mean, you kind of have to, right? You know that the Wraith King is going Midas. That Wraith King has not had the best game, obviously, but if you look at net worth, not super far behind the OD, who actually had a quite okay early game. And again, you have that Midas, which means your farm is kind of just going to be accelerated from here on out. And then you are, again, going for... Actually, it does look like he is going for some fancy stuff with the Sacred Relic here.
Yeah. I just figured that either, you know, maybe you don't go a farming item with the Night Stalker, but maybe I was thinking, Sanjin Yasha without really thinking about it, but no. Like, we're not buying anything that expensive. Loved is going to, okay, he's got the armlet flying out now. I assume he'll immediately join the fights, but we're just going Blink Dagger after this. Like, you can see how aggressively they want to end this game, and they're going to get a great start on this Dazzle to really...
Yeah, that is a lot of damage. The call is there, but so is the Echo Slam. He connects it onto 2, maybe able to melt down Appa. The Dual Breath is there, but so Ramen Noodles. So much damage coming out right now, but Sanity's Eclipse coming in from the side. Ice Moon Ed finishes off the enemy position 2. Astral Imprisonment is there on top of Loved, and they will be able to melt down the position 1 as well. Ice Moon Ed saving what looked like a disastrous team fight for the side of UoW.
Yeah, I mean, Biben10 did buy back for that, but I mean, completely worth it, right? Like, the difference between that fight and the fight before in a very similar area of the map, night and day, no pun intended, Night Stalker players, but it's just the vision and the fact that their team, like, got there in time to use their spells on each other, right? It's a very synergy-driven lineup. You know, this Earthshaker hit a great combo, but it was only that he was sort of immediately joined by the team, that there was the follow-up of the Eclipse, that there were saves for those cores. And suddenly, they're able to take a really valuable team fight. I think that maybe USYD no Tinker, I mean, they've had every reason to justify their confidence so far. They do still have balance, you know, thwacking away on creep seems to be Mr. PBE for this team in a lot of cases. But they should maybe just pause and evaluate exactly how keen they are to fight anywhere and everywhere on the map. Make sure that they're, you know, still ticking their boxes and they're not giving their opponents too easy a chance to turn things around and make a free sack of gold.
Yeah, the more this game is going on, the more I'm realizing how good this OD pick is. All of these heroes that they're playing against on the USYD lineup are so mana hungry. A few rotations of their spells, and they are pretty much out of mana. So the Sanity's Eclipse coming in there from the side, hitting the puck, which pretty much was absolutely melted their health bar. Just one shot. Nice little duel coming out of the invisibility of the smoke just there. And some more dual damage on top of balance. Looking for more though as the Dream Coil connects onto the Ben 10. Gonna look for the TP out, but the Leashed is there, I'm afraid, and that is gonna be a very dead position 5 and a dead position 4 as well. Sandwich Man.
I mean, you talk about efficient map movements and like playing as a coordinated team. There's not much more you can ask than that, right? They hit a key item timing. They, you know, have blink daggers now. They have damage items on their cores. They smoke up. They smooth move to the enemy triangle. They immediately get a kill. They immediately plant multiple wards. They sweep to mid lane to get more kills, plant more wards and D-ward. And now they have control of the whole Roshan area so that they can take an Aegis and have it for when their draft wants to go high ground. Like, this is like thinking about Dota in an objective sense and then letting that inform your team's movements as opposed to just, I feel like we should get a kill, let's smoke up and try and find a hero sort of thing.
Yeah, Sun Yi's map movements there were so intelligent. He saw the entirety of the USYD lineup walk into their bottom side jungle, and then they all disappeared out of vision. They didn't have any wards in this jungle at the time, and yet after they had been off the map for a little while, he just TP'd to the bottom lane tower, cleared out the wave, and now pushed into the jungle with the rest of his team. He had no way of knowing that they weren't there. That was purely just game sense, that he just thought that they would just come top and look for him at that stage, and it really paid off, as that's exactly what they did. They circled where they thought the Wraith King would be, they started rotating up there to catch him out, and now he's bot lane, and honestly, this Wraith King is kind of their biggest hope right now. We do see him going towards the Radiance.
Athos is doing a good job of preserving hope in the meantime. There's some deep Earthshaker combos coming out. Unfortunately, Ramen Noodles manages to slip away from that one. OD self-banishing there in the river could be really bad. I'm not sure. Oh, wow, what a grave.
Yeah, that is the ultimate committed from Loved. Very scary stuff. Athos also going to get taken down here. The homing missile going to be ensuring that one happens. It's at some point. It is a case of when, not if.
Oh my god, it's turned
and
into a
Benson
rout.
pretty much getting one shot. As I said, this Wraith King, still farming. Still farming. The rest of his team dying very terribly, but the Wraith King is still farming. When this Radiance gets bought, which honestly shouldn't be too far, I think he's actually very close to getting it.
Now he's doing the opposite of the move you said before. He's teleporting back to the top tower, anticipating that they'll be moving bot to gank him, but they don't really... I don't think that they feel they need to hunt the Wraith King, especially when it means moving across the map and moving away from Roshan, moving away from these two tier 2 towers they want to crack. I have a feeling that Sun Yi would be completely safe just sitting in the bottom lane if he wants to try and finish, his next couple of items, because his opponents right now are trying to beat him sort of just on farm and on timings rather than like trying to stop him from ever building a real item. So, that's maybe just a difference in perception of the game, but he does move top and he does get away with it. Obviously has enough sense to not move out of the safety of his tower, and his team do respawn in time to reinforce him. So now they're actually in position to contest the Roshan. Ended up being a great idea after all. My heart leapt in my mouth there for a second, and poor Bibenten may still catch the bad end of things.
Shallow Grave, Dream Coil is there. One more Acorn Toss from Asian Turtle off to the side will be the death of him. A nice little fissure there from Athos to keep the enemy team from collapsing, and he lives another day. I do really like this itemization from Balance, though. He kind of recognizes that Wraith King is their only ticket back into this game. Immediately queues up the Halberd. He's just going to grab the Halberd, and now that Wraith King is going to have to play into a disarm, and we know that because he's going Radiance next, he's not going to have any sort of BKB to deal with the disarm for quite some time, so definitely really like that one from Balance. It makes a lot of sense, and it's certainly going to be big in these fights.
Yeah, pretty heads up stuff, but I mean, I don't know how opportunistic that was. Maybe they're on their way out already, but that sort of failed Dream Coil gank, the fact that they're able to very cannily zone out the Hoodwink from finishing that kill and keep everyone alive and keep their Wraith King alive and in that area, has meant that, USYD have been pushed out of the Radiant side of the map, and this is such a more even game than game one. It is a significant gold lead still to the side of USYD No Tinker, but they, despite having that good ward vision and that good positioning on the high ground and the triangle, they have been driven away, and it does seem like they want to maybe finish up another couple of items. I think maybe Loved's BKB is the most important thing they're waiting on, kind of just recognizing that there's so much damage coming out of the other side and control on top of that. So Ramen Noodles has been having a fine game, I'm sure, in his mind, but he could definitely do with another couple of items as well. He's going to go for those boots of travel so that he's more maneuverable outside of his orb, since it's easy to kind of disrupt that with OD. Balance, he's already set, I think, like you said, just finishing that Halberd now.
Yeah, the Halberd is definitely going to be very, very big, but Radiance is finished on this Wraith King, and I mean, we look at the farm speed, is catching up. He's nearly eclipsed this Puck and the Puck in terms of total net worth, and I believe that is only a matter of time where that is going to happen, but Wraith King does actually show in the bottom side lane here, which, when you are kind of the only strong threat on the enemy team, showing bot side here, that is just free signs to do Roshan if you're USYD.
Yeah, I think they've kind of accepted it. Like, you could see that movement top before from Sun Yi was to defend the Roshan side of the map, but even though they were able to initially push the Dire back with the Dream Coil being on cooldown, I think they recognized that against all of their enemies' spells at once, they just don't have a fight at this stage of the game. Like, their supports in particular are just way too vulnerable. It's very easy for all of these heroes to get around onto the backline. Someone is going to mess up the Dazzle. You can't rely on having a full Jakiro combo or having that timely Shallow Grave when your enemy has such good vision in the area and knows where you want to fight. So instead, they just concede the Roshan and they accept a trade, right? I sort of said the same from very early on with the Midas pickup and the way even that their supports have been approaching this game, that they want to take a real conservative posture and just defend their high ground, like trade these outer buildings for whatever they can and try and come through in the late game. So I feel like they're still on track to a degree, but a lot of pressure mounting.
Yeah, so I feel like this is definitely a blunder by Sunye on the Wraith King, and this might just be because, you know, he's not a high enough MMR player to keep track of exactly all the... Oh, hang on! Dark Ascension is being popped by Love. They're going immediately onto the OD in the backside. Sharpshoot is going to finish that one off, but look at the cooldown and the damage onto this USYD team. Sorry, from this USYD team, I should say, is just absolutely ridiculous. UoW is going to get melted down. And this is going to probably be a Rax. I mean, obviously, Wraith King is just still farming, but
yeah,
not going back to defend.
I mean, I can't blame him for that one, right? Because surely that wasn't your plan to take a team fight with, you know, 3 heroes behind your tier 2 just in that awful no man's land. I mean, there's a reason that those tier 2 towers are like the worst towers to defend in Dota. You really are vulnerable when your opponent has that high ground position on you. You only have this one avenue of retreat, and we just pointed out how squishy and vulnerable, like immobile their supports are, their backline. So I imagine that they were playing to find high ground, and instead of the second game in a row, they just get jumped outside their base.
It would seem, as the Shallow Grave is being used to try and keep him alive, but this is going to be the reincarnation coming out by the looks of things here. Or is it? In comes Athvis with the Echo Slam! A calamity! Oh my goodness! Sanity's Eclipse as well to just finish off the kills. Astral Imprisonment probably going to grab that one. No, not quite, but it is going to get finished off by Ben 10 with the Shadow Wave. Oh my goodness.
They even get the courier on the way. I mean, that's some kind of bloody nose to give the enemy team, but I'm in the same moment sad because, like, that's their high ground defense that they've been playing around, right? But unfortunately, you just gave up a lane of Rax, that crucial first lane of Rax, by I guess just a lack of discipline, right? By coming outside of your base for you know, no real reason, defend a tower you can't defend, and just kind of letting the enemy initiate on you, which they fully have the potential to do. And that means that instead of that being the safe defense of your base and just a clear win for UoW, and now they feed some year back the other way, it's just sort of like one small up in another gradual slide behind USYD No Tinker.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Sunye going Blink Dagger second here and not BKB kind of hurts my soul a little bit, but I mean, we'll have to wait and see if it ends up paying off later into the game, but...
I can kind of see it, right?
I think if like, Legion did not build the Halberd here, especially so early, I think you can be forgiven for going Blink Dagger, but, I mean, having BKB so that you have the Purge for Halberd, and also have the Magic immunity and the CC immunity on top of that playing into Puck, is definitely really important, because, I mean... Yes, technically, the Legion Commander can just Halberd you, and then if you BKB the Halberd, then Legion Commander can then smack duel, but I feel like that requires Legion to just be on top of you for so long as the Wraith King, and, you know, at that point, if you're that fed and Legion Commander just duels you with BKB on, Legion Commander can just die, like, taking that right-click fight against you, right? So... I definitely don't think it's terrible in that situation either, and it's like, you know, is Blink Dagger really going to allow you to do more in these fights than BKB would? Debatable, but either way, Dark Ascension is being popped. They're going into the OD immediately, who's going to get melted yet again, but we've seen this happen, and UoW have managed to find their way out of it in the past. Athvis does have the Echo in the backline, probably waiting for these BKBs to wear off. Great Shallow Grave is going to keep Sunny alive with the reincarnation still available, just waiting for the regen before they make their move. Sun Yi going forward here. The Chaos Bolt is going to connect them to Sir Ramen Noodles. In goes Loved, though. Echo Slam is going to hit nothing? Oh no, I think he tried to blink, but he didn't use it. It's off cooldown still. Oh no, he just echoed nothing.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what happened there. Maybe you missed out with shift queuing or something, but I mean, I don't even know if it would have made a difference, to be perfectly honest. Like, we just saw how powerful BKB reveal can be, and it was unloved, unfortunately, for UoW fans. That Nightstalker wall there, right? I think that's why Wraith King had to build the Blink Dagger, is to just try and get onto heroes he can actually kill so that he can do something in this fight, right? Or at least maybe stun the Puck or the Gyro and try and interrupt their contribution to the fight. But instead, you just see Love just charge forward like that with the silence turned on and the BKB and completely wall the entire Radiant team out of the fight. They can't reach any hero that's relevant to cast spells on. They can't even really run away. They just get sucked into a jet engine and die.
Yeah, this is actually really annoying that Sir Ramen Noodles is allowed to get away with doing this. Ooh, Dreamcoil connecting onto 2 here. This could be a very dead OD. Shallow Grave is there to try and keep him alive, but there's a cooldown duel to lock him in place. Will they have the damage? Yes, they will. Ice Moon Ed is going to be going down. No buyback available. Here comes Sunyi, though, for round 3. I do believe in this fight. Aphis goes forward. Great Fish connects onto 3. The follow-up, Ice Path is there onto Love. Do they have the damage to bring any of these cores down? So Ramen Noodles is being annoying to kill, though, as Puck is in general. Look at the CC that's being dropped right now. This is why you need BKB. And Sunyi forced to just walk back to the fountain.
I mean, he's got the BKB queued up, so it was in his stars. But he just doesn't have time to realize his destiny, I don't think, this game. Like, the Blink Dagger is kind of like a desperate half measure. You needed to come back and fight. You need to be able to move around and avoid getting ganked while farming. You need to be able to get onto the few heroes on the team. You do have the damage to threaten, but he's just never going to be able to develop into the core that he needs to be where against a timing like this, right? Like, you compare that Wraith King to Kabbalah's Night Stalker, let alone the Legion Commander who's also out farming him, right? But just this Night Stalker is completely ready to end the game, as strong as he'll ever be right now, and the Wraith King is only beginning to build up key capacities like that BKB.
Yeah, I do want to point out, Sir Ramen Noodles is quite literally like blink daggering in and then throwing illusory orb, silence, and then going away. And multiple times that he's done this, there has just, you know, like, there's been no astral imprisonment. Like, that button just hasn't been clicked, but...
it's got a cast time on it. I mean, a good puck player, I feel like, especially with phase,
I suppose, but I feel like I feel like watching Sir Ramen Noodles, he's definitely like not doing these illusory orb like kind of movements fast enough where there is no window where he can just get like astral imprisonment.
I think maybe he just
and then
has
probably
a feeling
killed.
that he wants to get banished, right? Like if they try and fight around that, I think his team just kills him and ends the game. So maybe that's the idea.
Maybe. I do know that he's just getting away with a lot of poke.
He definitely is getting away. The whole team of USYD No Tinker are definitely getting away with everything they want right now. But they've earned it.
Sunyi is here and he's looking for Appa. The position 5, Glimmer Cape is committed, and so is the call down. Try and keep Sunyi off his tail, and it is going to work, but still holding strong. There's only 1 Rax left in this best of 2. And USYD looking to try and make it a 2-0 to kick off the season for themselves.
I mean, yeah, they've just about done everything, put the last little cherry on top of the cake. Their drafts, both games, have been aggressive, but very well constructed, very much having an idea in mind of when they want to win, picking heroes that complement each other well, that are all going to be prepared to do their job at the time they need to. And then, of course, the individual play has really given them this cushion, right? Like, you say they're getting away with a lot, but I think it's just because they feel how ahead they are. And they've felt how ahead they are really from, like, the very early minutes of Game 1. They've kind of sensed they have an edge. And they've been gradually pushing their luck and that edge more as these 2 games have gone on. But, I mean, who's sort of discouraged them from taking those risks, right? They're 26,000 gold ahead at 33 minutes in Game 2. This Puck has just finished a full BKB, so now he really does just have a license to do whatever the hell he wants. And it's impossible to see how the Radiant come back into this. I appreciate the fighting spirit, and there's been some nice games out of, you know, Athos on this Earthshaker has looked quite clutch in the team fights, but it's just not enough to make up so many bad things happening.
It really is just that X factor, though, of just having Shaker on your team. It's like no team fight is totally unwinnable. Yeah. You can be ridiculously like far behind in gold, but all it takes is that one legendary 5-man shatter that just turns things around
Smoke
completely.
Outside the base. Here we go. They're sick and tired of this.
This is it, and that is going to be probably a very dead Jakiro. That's probably going to be a very dead OD as well, as he gets caught up in the Dream Coil and doesn't quite realize it as he gets force-stuffed into the stun. Triple kill for Loved, and I mean, this is probably looking like all she wrote here, unless Sunyi somehow makes some crazy play. Buyback committed there from the Benten as well, but yeah, call down in the fountain right now. They are just looking to rub insult to injury, and certainly looking a little bit bad if you're
pretty one-sided BO2 in the end. Oh, this Night Stalker might die. Love, no.
Ooh, he's actually gonna go down, but you know what else is gonna go down? It is the Ancient, as USYD No Tinker are gonna take out the first 2-0 of the season in quite dominating fashion.
Yeah, I guess if you were ever going to have, a game where your stats are padded enough to overlook that fountain death, it's this one, right? Like, I almost feel like Love was a little bit disappointed in how one side of the games were, because as a carry player, that kind of means you basically weren't required, but they did also do a good job of deliberately picking really early timing carries for CK in the first game, Night Stalker in the second game, definitely built to be involved sooner than his opponent, and just added that absolute massive weight that was the No Tinker team barreling down the lanes into the defenseless UoW buildings.
Yeah, it certainly was. And I mean, if we look at the scoreboard here, definitely some great performances. Gubala and Balance, especially Balance. All I'm going to say, in my call, Balance is just the position 3 of the season by the looks of things so far. This guy has just absolutely turned up in both games and really looked like a carry from the position 3 role, which, does take some talent to do as a position 3 to outshine the position 1 and 2 consistently in 2 games in a row. And to do so playing Legion Commander into something that we said was such a hard game for core Legion Commander. Like, looking at these heroes, you think for sure they just draft around the Legion Commander being a press the attack bot for the carries. It's really good to click onto Gyro. It's really good to click onto Night Stalker. And you play to just be a stun. You just duel literally to be a BKB piercing stun. But no, ended up going for the core carry Legion Commander and made it look good despite having to play into Shallow Grave and 4 other heroes that have stuns. So absolutely amazing play here coming from Balance, and I'm excited to see where this USYD No Tinker lineup are going to go.
Yeah, I mean, all of their players had a great game. I mean, as you pointed out, Sir Ramen Noodles kind of flexing on him at the end there on the puck. Everyone having a really confident time. I think Asian Turtle Frenzy had some really canny map movements in both games, gave them great vision. Loved, obviously, dominating in the farming stakes. You can see this team really know what they should be doing at any given time. And Balance, I don't know that the Game 1 performance, hard to criticize. The Game 2 performance, I don't have criticisms. I just think that Legion Commander game was basically kind of a wash. Like, I think it says maybe more about individual, laning skills and read on the game. But that was pretty much just a player, even both games, just laning, taking what was available to him in lane in terms of kills and farm, and then just sort of staying in the lane, as the team forced so much pressure across the map that it just basically threw UoW into complete chaos, and Balance was able to just stay in the bottom lane and keep farming, move to the top lane and keep farming, get all the items he needed to push the lanes when it was required of him, and then show up just completely overfarmed and own some heroes, right? So riding the cushion of player skill and team skill there perhaps, but certainly a player that I'd love to see in maybe a higher caliber matchup later on in the season.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, do you have any other closing thoughts here, Bard? Maybe if you'd want to mention our wonderful sponsors once again before we close things out?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I was going to give a couple of shout-outs to the side of UoW, but I mean, this was a hard game, a hard series for them, no doubt. I do think that they have some potential once they sort out their team. I think that Game 2 draft looked a lot better for them, so hopefully they can bounce back against some more forgiving opposition later on. But whenever they do, it will be thanks to the grace of our various sponsors for this season. Predator, our gaming PC sponsor, AOC, our monitor sponsor, and of course, Rig, our headset sponsor. Check all of those brands out. They really do give it up every season to make sure that the Uni League is running, and these players and these teams have this great arena to strut their stuff in front of you. And of course, also, if you want to keep track of the work that I do in esports between broadcasts, make sure you follow me on social media. I'm sure my Twitter handle is somewhere. And likewise, give a shout out to my man Kadius over here. Thanks for the cast. It's been a great way to kick off the season.
Yeah, definitely. Well, folks, make sure to stay tuned in, of course, right here to the Australian Esports Uni League for 2022. It's going to be a great one. You can do so, of course, by catching us on Twitch, YouTube, all that good stuff, as well as, Facebook, Twitter. All of it is at AU Esports League, except for the Twitch, which is, of course, AEL Uni and AEL Uni 2 to catch all the broadcasts. But until next time, stay tuned, and we will see you then.